And I'm joined by Hannah Wicklund. How you doing, Hannah?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thanks. Yeah, doing good. Last time we spoke, we were just saying just before we hit record there was it was a few years ago when you released your Hannah Wicklund the Stepping Stones album. Now you're all set to release the prize. It's great to have new music from you, mate. Why, how has the writing process changed for you? Because there's definitely a shift in sound listening to the record. It's more expansive. It's more sort of, it's more layered than the Stepping Stones record was. How has the writing process changed at all for you?
Well, the process behind this record was actually in a lot of ways me coming full circle to kind of who I've always been. I like to say that this record is kind of the passing of the baton from girlhood to womanhood. And it's really where I'm kind of like honoring that transition. And I think that is very much embodied in the music because with my last record with Hannah Wicklund and the Steppin' Stones, um, I think there were like four, maybe even five songs on that record that were co-writes, which is very different for me. My whole life I've been writing songs, and I think my favorite songs that I've written are the ones that I've completed myself. I think that there's just a little bit more depth to those songs. Kind of like how you say, like more layers, like musically, I think there's more layers. I think the actual idea behind the song, you're able to kind of dig in a different way. So, on the prize, there are two co-writes on the record, but this record is very much me. Um, and so I think that that's kind of the biggest thing was me kind of, coming back to that idea that uh that hey, I can write good songs on my own, and I tend to connect to them a little bit more. So that's what's different, but I wouldn't say that too much is different. I think that it's just more authentic to me.
Yeah, it just sounds like I don't know, like I don't know. I love the Stepping Stones, the Hannah Wickham Stepping Stones record that you did, One for the Grey Script. It just sounds like this is a more accurate representation of your stories and your life, and like you say, more of you on it, which is great.
Yeah, it was time. I think that, my last record was made, and it's the perception is that that's my first record, which is kind of how I had released it. But I had done, EPs and a couple of full lengths when I was younger. So did like an EP when I was 12. I did another EP at 14, a full length at 15, and a full length at 16. Um, or maybe even was there another one at 18? Whatever. It's this, I had put out music, and then when the music business kind of, came for me, whatever, at like 18, 19 years old, that was around the time that I, started writing and kind of did my Hannah Wicklund and the Steppin' Stones record. And that was when I was taking every single meeting that anybody wanted to have with me. I was in all these different rooms. I was meeting, lots of different players in the industry, and everybody has an idea of what you should sound like and who you should write with and what type of song they hear you putting out, and who should produce the record. And so I went from being young and always making my own decisions and being, the boss of my own band, to then all of a sudden having like all of these people's opinions in my head when I sat down to write. And it was actually a very clogging, is that a good word?
Yeah,
It's,
I can
I felt
imagine.
very, very stuck when I sat down to write. And so that was when I did my last record. I was kind of in the middle of, I had gone from knowing exactly who I was to not being so sure anymore because of all of the flailing opinions. and
Yeah.
and I think on the prize and in this phase now, I've come full circle, and I have listened to what everybody has to say, and I have pushed them all out of my head again, and it feels a lot better. So
Yeah, I always think that the best music and the best art from any artist in whatever form that is when it's coming from them purely. I mean, we've all seen documentaries where a band's doing really well, and then like you say, the business people come in and say, right, you've got to repeat that record, or you've got to go down this thing because this is in fashion now, and all the fans of that act just leave them because it's not what they love about them. What they love about them is them, and
yeah.
then the record company loses interest because there's no money anymore, then the artist gets to make the record that they want, and suddenly they're back in action, they're back swinging. So no, it's good that you're being you, mate. Was that a decision that was conscious in dropping the stepping stones side of it as well? Was that just a bit of this is me?
That was definitely drop. It was time to become just Hannah Wicklund.
Hmm.
Honestly, I probably should have released that last record of mine as just Hannah Wicklund as well. But I started the Stepping Stones at 8 years old, and I had dreams of having the Stepping Stones until I was 80 years old. And so that was a really hard transition for me. I had found myself, I had just moved to Nashville, and I'd gone and dated, one of my drummers, which is a classic mistake. But I basically had found myself, had like the busiest year of touring of my life, back in 2017 on the books, up to that point, and I was touring Europe for the first time. I was playing my first major festivals. I was, going to be recording this new record. And that was what had me add Hannah Wicklund, was because all of a sudden the band part had kind of disappeared, and it became time to time to do this on my own, except I wasn't willing to let go of the Stepping Stones yet. So that's why it became Hannah Wicklund and the Stepping Stones. And then it just became very obvious that it should just be Hannah Wicklund moving forward. So here we are.
You saying earlier there that you had you were getting a bit of blockage writing wise because of everyone else's opinions coming down on you and dictating what your art should be. Was there a particular song when you were writing this album that kicked off the trajectory for the rest of the record when you were writing, or?
I think this record, kind of like the heart of it, really came together at the same time. I also, I wrote this record in the span of like 7 months
Oh wow.
ish.
Okay.
And the last song was, finished in January of 2019. So, the writing portion of this record wasn't too long, and like Dark Passenger and Sun to Sun and Witness and gosh, a couple other of these songs all kind of were born around the same time, and then they were maturing at a similar rate. So most of the songs on this record I ruminated with for months and months, and they all kind of brought themselves. But Songbirds Sing is a song on the record that like essentially wrote itself, and I
I
like to
love
say
that
that
song.
there's
I love
thank
that
you.
song. It's beautiful.
Thank you. It's kind of my lullaby, as I kind of think of it. But that is the song on this record that wrote itself. The song on my last record that wrote itself was Strawberry Moon,
Okay.
which it's like, you just sit down and within 20 minutes you have a complete song, and there is no better feeling than that. And you only get one of those songs every so often. But I think that the message behind Songbird Sing, um, I think that was like the original, very clear idea of what this record kind of meant, which was definitely a deeper, more connected, talking about, you know, putting things into a different point of view than I had before, when it comes to my own life. So
That's cool. No, I would say, I mean, I got sent the tracks a couple of days ago now, and even to the point where normally, I'm in the gym in the morning, I listen to very high energy, almost punk and roll kind of stuff, just to power me through more than anything.
mhm.
And I had this on the gym this morning just because I was, speaking, I want to listen to it some more and soak up a bit more. And it's a fantastic record. I just can't get enough of it, mate. The production on it's fantastic. The layers on it sound, you've got, like you say, you've got tracks like Songbird Sing, and then you've got the sort of, I guess, heavier side of things like Hell in the Hallway and that kind of thing. Witness is another track that I just can't get enough listen to. Yeah, you should. I'm sure you are, and you don't need me to tell you this, but you should be really proud of this record. I can't stop.
Oh, thank you.
It's great.
Thank you. I
Uh,
appreciate that. It was a labor of love, to put it lightly, and the path to having that record see daylight has been one of the hardest paths of my life. Just you know, the writing of the record was the easiest part,
Yeah.
and so I'm extremely grateful to finally be here at the it's like a finish line and a starting line at the same time, so it feels good.
But I think those are the albums that sing the most. When I'm thinking of albums I loved last year, like Rival Sons, Dark Fire, and Lightbringer records that had so much heart and soul in them. And I
Yeah.
think they always those kind of records always shine. And I think this is definitely up there.
Well, thank you.
I
Thank
know,
you
but
very much.
that's all right. And also on the record, you had Sam Kiszka of Greta Van Fleet, who you produced it, played organs, played keys, played bass. How did that
Mhm.
collaboration come to be?
We were at a for a time we had mutual management, and
Okay.
it was we just kind of met through that channel, and you know, Sam was it was the first thing that he ever produced, and so we just kind of went into the studio just with like no pressure, just to kind of hang and see what came about. And after the first day, it was very obvious that this was the right energy to have for the record, because I had worked with, you know, a handful of different producers, and I had contemplated working with lots of different producers for this record. And I knew that these songs were really important and needed to be handled with care. And I ultimately found in Sam not just a producer, but almost like a pseudo bandmate
Yeah.
for the making of this record. So he stepped in, and, you know, I could tell that he cared tremendously. And he came with, you know, just like a passion and a vibrance and a sense of humor that made the project really fun, and just kind of set sail. So yeah, he was a very important piece to this puzzle, and this record would not be anywhere near what it is without him and Daniel. But
Yeah, of
but
course.
Sam produced the shit out of this record. So
Well, like you say, I mean, I didn't realize he hadn't produced anything before. I assumed he'd had hands in doing something, although now I think
well,
about
they kind of like, you know, they self-produce a lot of
it. Hmm.
stuff. They're kind of similar to me in the level of how much they care about their art and their craft. So while he hadn't had his own, like, you know, production credit on, you know, other music,
Hmm.
definitely within the Greta sphere, that has that has gotten him ready for his role as a producer, certainly.
Well, I'm sure I know he's obviously, busy with Greta and, they just released a great album last year as well. And I'm sure after this and other things, he's going to be sought after because the production, like, so I think sometimes that because he's clearly had, like you were saying there to me, he clearly had an energy. He was excited because, he was getting his hands into something, a bit different from what he's known for doing, obviously with Greta Van Fleet. That energy really does feed into it. And I think if you've got a producer for whatever reason they are as excited as the obviously the artist is to portray the work, then I think it sings it. There's nothing worse than when you see a band live, they're portraying their craft and they're giving it all in the energy, and then you go buy their EP or their album or whatever it is, and then you listen to it and you go, this production's awful. The producer didn't care, and it can
Totally.
absolutely ruin great songs. You know,
I totally agree. I think that there's a lot of artists, especially in this modern canon, um, a lot of artists who live maybe have that, like, you know, can like hearken to the classic rock days, or, you know, kind of have that more classic edge, or, you know, even like I've heard it happen with like people that lean a little Motown feeling and stuff. I've heard it happen so many times where then their recorded stuff, it just is like either too stylized to where they're like really trying to chase that like classic thing, or it's just like not stylized at all. And it's just like a, I don't know, but I feel like this, you know, a lot of the rock and roll production, when you see like a band live that you love and then you listen to something and you're disappointed, um, you know, I think it happens a lot in the rock and roll sphere. And so, yeah, what you're saying about having the proper enthusiasm from
Yeah.
your producer, it is so important. And that was definitely, I think, something that had been missing from my career, has been really being able to have the recorded music live up to the live music, because I love playing live, and I play, as many shows as I can. It's my favorite thing in the world. And I myself have always thought that my recorded music, you know, was more of just like a vehicle for people to take the live show home with them,
Yeah, of course.
so to
Yeah.
speak. Whereas now with the prize, this is the first time that I feel like, my music is standing on its own, in a recorded sense. So it's a game changer for me, this record, I think, and I'm very thrilled for it.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, like I was saying, I mentioned Rival Sons, and I guess what I loved about listening to this record, like you were talking about there, certain bands that come through the ranks are trying to stylize the classic side of things. And don't get me wrong, I love all of that. I was brought up on with a dad who loved, Aerosmith and Zeppelin and all those sort of things. I absolutely adore all that kind of things, the Beatles and everything else. But we are in a day and age where I think the production, if you try and mimic that, it kind of sounds a bit false sometimes. But
Mhm.
with, albums that I love from, I mentioned Rival Sons earlier, so like bands like Rival Sons and Greta Van Fleet and Dirty Honey, and now with this record, it's you can hear your influence, of course you can, everyone's good, but this is an album that is unmistakably you. It doesn't sound like anyone else. I was sitting there when I was reading it and going, like, because you spoke to a friend of mine, Ryan, on his Beyond the Vibe podcast recently.
Yeah, I
Um,
did.
yeah, so me and Ryan get on really well, and I said to Ryan, oh, you know, gonna chat to Hannah in a couple of days' time. He's like, oh, brilliant, have you heard the album yet? And he's like, and I said, yeah, I've just got it through, I'm now listening to it. And we both said the same thing, like in trying to describe it to someone else who's, the album isn't quite out yet, and we've been fortunate enough to hear it a little in advance. If you were trying to describe it, in terms of what's it sound like by using other people and it sounds like this band or that act or the other, you would really undermine the album because yes, you can hear those influences, but it's so much more than the sum of its components. It's an album that's unmistakably you, and the only way I would be able to describe this album to anyone would be just to go, just listen to it, and soak it
I
up for
love
what it
that.
is.
Well, that's a very big compliment. I think, being able to sound like yourself in a sea of people, says a lot. So I appreciate that. That's definitely been my goal. I really don't love the comparison game, when people ask, like, who do you sound like, anything. I like to avoid that.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but yeah, thank you.
No, no problem at all. Another thing I loved about the record when I was reading things is that my wife's an artist, so that we've got lots of art around our house. And
Oh,
seeing that
cool.
you were doing oil paintings for each track on the album, I thought was really cool. And to me, whether it's art in a physical form, whether it be paintings or drawings, obviously seeing stuff comes out of my wife's studio and the messages that she wants to deliver with her artwork, or musicians or poetry or whatever it might be, it just seems to me that all of those, any art in any form, is a way that we can connect beyond words. It's beyond words and action. You can say so much more with a song, with a painting, with a drawing, with a poetry, whatever it might be. And I'm guessing, the art side of it is just as much important to you as the music side.
It is. This is kind of the merriment of my two greatest passions in life, which are music and art. My mom's an artist and
Oh,
my
cool.
dad was a musician. So, very much I am that, like, that 50-50 split. And the art side is something that I'd always done, like the records that I put out as a teenager and all of the merch that I sold as a teenager. I did the art for it, all of my album covers and stuff. And then I was just really busy, so my mom did my album cover for my last record. But I was able to take that job back, for this record. And um, it was pretty much a project that was born out of, uh, not being able to release this record, because in a parallel universe this record came out 2 years ago.
Well said.
And so I've been kind of sitting here, you know, in a way, I had my hands tied behind my back when it came to the release of this record for a very long time. And my only choice, like, I also was kind of kept from touring because of certain things and stuff. So, like, for about a year, I was, and that's very uncomfortable for me. I'm a very hardworking, like, active person. I want to be on the road. I want to be doing things. I want to be, furthering my career, and it was very weird to not be able to do what I do. And so I found myself with kind of extra time, and I was seemingly like the only person who really cared about getting this record out.
Yeah.
And so I decided to like double down on these songs that I cared about so much. And instead of, starting to write my next record while I didn't know what was going to happen with this one, I dove into each song even further and decided to do the oil painting. And that's how the world really came about. It was out of kind of pain. so so the art was actually what kept me sane while I was trying to get other things sorted for this record. The art was what kind of made things make sense, and ultimately, my paintings were part of the uniqueness that helped me figure out how to release this record, ultimately. So it all worked out in the end, and these paintings have had a lot more to do with this record than I had ever imagined. But yeah, it's been a very long, fulfilling, hard process.
I mean, I know like when my wife's creating pieces of work that she'll, she's halfway through something, I'll often say, oh, what, because a lot of her's around to do with mental health and, self promotion and self love and all that kind of thing and trying to promote positive mental health and that kind of thing. And a lot of stuff when she does it, I'm like, right, okay, well, what, what's the piece? What are you doing? And she's like, I don't know. I'm just having to do whatever's coming out on the canvas. That's what I've got to do. And then retrospectively, she looks and goes, oh, okay, I was trying to do this and
Yeah.
it comes through that kind of thing. Did you find that certain songs were getting, although you'd obviously crafted the song, but going back and doing the paintings was making you look at the songs in a different light at all?
I think it helped whittle down the main message. I think that's what the paintings do. It kind of simplifies the message of the song a little bit to me. Like for Witness, it's basically capturing this wolf sauntering off, leaving the castle, giving one last look. And I had I wrote that song about my first relationship, that drummer that I mentioned before. And I had paid for him to get, I bought him like a tattoo, and it was a wolf in a headdress, and that that was basically him. It was a metaphor for him and taking the wolf, and then, kind of having him leave my safe space of the castle. Like, this is my spot, and watching him go away. So that was kind of that was part of the painting process for that song. But yeah, I think each painting kind of uncovers a different theme.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. I mean, you said earlier that, we've talked about themes across the album, and there's obviously like a lot of healing went on with this record, you can tell, and in the themes around it and all those conversations that we've had. Oh, and obviously you were saying earlier that the writing process obviously happened a few years ago now, and and you have not been able to release it for various reasons. But obviously now further down the line from that point of writing, do you feel like you now look at these songs in a different way than when you first wrote them?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, because the way that I feel about these songs and the way that I feel about this record is that it's almost like a time capsule
Mm.
of that period of my life. So I really think I captured some of the tougher sides of my trials and tribulations, and so I think that when I look at the songs now, I think that it kind of transports me in time a little bit. So I don't know if I necessarily see them differently yet. But I think more that I sink into that space when I'm performing them. And obviously now they're not as I was in pain when I was writing them, you know, and now I am quite happy, and I am really on the other side of that spectrum, and I've kind of seen the light, so to speak, in certain areas of my life. And so I guess I guess I'm approaching them in a different way, but I think that the songs are still just as powerful to me, and still hit as heavy as they did when I first wrote them.
That's cool. That's cool. So
Yeah.
obviously we mentioned the fact that Sam was involved in the record.
Mhm.
Obviously, of course, Sam was involved producing like organs and playing keys, like I said, of course, as well. Um, you know, you recently did some shows with Greta Van Fleet over here in the UK, did in Wembley. How
Mhm.
were the shows for you? They looked amazing. Unfortunately, I didn't make that tour, but it looked incredible.
It was a really fantastic tour. That was definitely one for the books. It was really fantastic because my older brother was playing drums for me.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
yeah, and his two best friends were my band for that run, and so the vibes on the tour were immaculate. And getting to tour with Sam and the boys and Greta is always fantastic, and love them all dearly. So it was great.
I reckon. Have you got any plans to come back over the UK on your own to, support this release?
Yes, I am going to be back over starting in May. I've got some shows in the UK and Germany
Oh,
in
nice.
stretching from like late May into June on my Hell in the Hallway World Tour.
Yeah.
So, yes, I will be in the UK. I would love to see you at a show when I'm back.
Absolutely. I'll have to check out date, see where you're going, and yeah, I'll come along. Be good to see you live. Good to see these songs live. It's a great record.
Thank you. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, no worries. And what does the rest of the year hold out for you then, other than the tour?
Just lots of right now, the number one thing I'm looking forward to and getting ready for is this big tour. It kicks off on February 8th in Charleston, South Carolina, and takes me across the US, across Canada, and then obviously, like I just mentioned, over to the UK and Germany. So lots more. I think we're going to be adding more dates too. But just getting my show shoes on.
No, so when does the rehearsal start for all that? Are you?
I think in about 2 weeks we're gonna be knocking off the dust,
Yeah.
getting things going. Yeah.
Are the same band again with your brother and his friends, or?
No, I wish I could have them, but my brother is now a father of two beautiful young girls. So that was more of a that was more of a once in a lifetime opportunity to get to tour Europe with my older brother kind of experience. But I'm piecing together a really fantastic band with some guys that I've known for a while, and I'm excited about.
Yeah, nice, man. That'd be great. Well, I look forward to seeing you come to the UK. I'll make sure I get down to that. Looking forward to the album coming out. Thanks for your time, Hannah. It's been great to catch up with you, mate. This is a fantastic record. At the beginning of the interview, I'm going to play Let's Go with Songbird Sing, because we've been chatting about that quite a bit. But what song off the album, because we're going to air this when on release date, off the album, would you like us to play at the end of the interview?
I think Witness.
Yeah.
Yeah, Witness is kind of we're gonna be pushing that song here pretty hard. So that one would be great.
Yeah, brilliant. We'll look witness in. And yeah, thanks for your time again, Hannah. It's been great to speak to you.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely day.
And you, cheers. Take care.
Bye. Maybe I'm a break.